In our last episode, Austria-Hungary stood paralyzed. The Balkan Wars had redrawn the map of southeastern Europe, and Vienna had done little more than watch from the sidelines. Serbia had emerged stronger. The Ottomans were collapsing, and Franz Josef, aged and cautious, seemed unwilling or unable to respond. But behind the scenes, a different figure was emerging, a man both revered and resented, one with a vision that could have reshaped the empire or torn it apart. His name was Franz Ferdinand, Archduke of Austria, heir to the throne, and the man whose murder would plunge Europe into war. But before the shots rang out in Sarajevo, who was he? What did he believe? And why did so many hope, or fear, that he would soon rule? This is Road to Destruction, the World Wars. Born in 1863, Franz Ferdinand was not supposed to be heir to the throne. He was the nephew of Emperor Franz Josef, not his son. But when Crown Prince Rudolf died in the tragic Mayerling incident of 1889, and Franz Josef's younger brother Karl Ludwig passed shortly after, the line of succession shifted. Suddenly, Franz Ferdinand was next. He was 26, stubborn, serious, and deeply devout. Unlike many in the imperial court, he didn't gamble, didn't carouse, and wasn't prone to flattery. He had a biting wit, a heavy temper, and a fierce sense of duty. Many found him abrasive, some found him dangerous, but no one could deny he was different. Franz Ferdinand's political beliefs defied easy labels. To conservatives, he was unpredictable. To liberals, he was authoritarian. In truth, he was both a reformer and a reactionary, often at the same time. He loathed Hungarian dominance within the dual monarchy. He believed the 1867 compromise had given Budapest too much power, and that the Hungarians oppressed the Slavic peoples of the empire. His answer? Reform the empire, but not into a democracy. Rather, he imagined a federation of autonomous Slavic states under the Habsburg crown. This vision, sometimes called trialism, would add a third pillar to the empire alongside Austria and Hungary. To Croats, Czechs, and Slovenes, this was an enticing dream. To Hungarians, it was a threat to their power. To Germans and Austrians, it risked weakening their dominance. And to Serbs, who hoped to unify all South Slavs under their leadership, it was sabotage. Franz Ferdinand's federation would co-opt the Slavs inside Austria-Hungary and make Serbian pan-Slavism irrelevant. It's no wonder nationalist groups like the Black Hand viewed him as a dangerous obstacle. For all his political ambitions, Franz Ferdinand was a deeply private man. His great love and enduring scandal was his wife, Sophie Chotek. She was noble, but not of royal blood. Their marriage was considered morganatic, meaning she could never be empress, and their children would never inherit the throne. His determination to marry for love and endure the humiliation it brought revealed a softer, more stubborn side. In an empire built on hierarchy and tradition, Franz Ferdinand was willing to break the rules. He made enemies by doing so. But he also showed a kind of loyalty and resolve rarely seen in the Habsburg family. Despite his conservative appearance, Franz Ferdinand understood that the empire's military needed modernization. He toured army bases relentlessly. He forged close ties with Chief of Staff Konrad von Hotzendorf, who shared his hawkish views. Though the two men often clashed, Konrad was impulsive, Franz Ferdinand more cautious. Both agreed on one thing: Austria-Hungary could not afford to appear weak. Franz Ferdinand supported increasing the size and professionalism of the military, but unlike Konrad, he opposed war with Serbia, not because he sympathized with them, but because he feared it would spark a wider European conflict. In his view, internal reform was the path to strength. War was a dangerous gamble. By the 1910s, Franz Ferdinand was a man with immense power, but no real allies. He had the emperor's formal blessing, but little warmth from the old man who had ruled for 6 decades and never truly embraced him. And yet, despite the emotional distance between them, whatever his faults, Franz Josef saw his nephew Franz Ferdinand as indispensable. The Habsburg line had narrowed through loss after loss. A brother executed, a son dead by suicide, another brother taken by illness. Now only Ferdinand remained. Franz Ferdinand distrusted the Hungarian elite, disliked the liberal aristocracy in Vienna, and barely tolerated Germany's growing dominance in Austria's foreign policy. Wilhelm II, in particular, rubbed him the wrong way. Franz Ferdinand saw the German Kaiser as vain, reckless, and domineering. He feared that Germany would drag Austria into a war it couldn't win. Yet he also knew the empire couldn't survive without German support. This contradiction, admiration and resentment, would define Austria's pre-war diplomacy. By 1914, Franz Ferdinand's influence was rising. Though Franz Josef was still emperor, many assumed it would not be for long. So when Franz Ferdinand planned a visit to Bosnia in June, it was more than a routine military inspection. It was a political signal, a way to assert authority over the empire's most volatile province. He and Sophie would travel to Sarajevo on June 28th, a date loaded with symbolic weight. It was the anniversary of the 1389 Battle of Kosovo, a defining moment in Serbian collective memory. To many Serbs, it marked not just a military defeat, but the beginning of centuries of oppression, and the birth of a national soul forged in suffering. For nationalist groups in Serbia and Bosnia, this was no routine visit. It was a provocation, a symbol of imperial arrogance trampling on sacred ground. The fact that the imperial court chose this day for a military inspection in the heart of Slavic resentment was more than tone deaf. It reflected the very blindness that would soon shape Vienna's disastrous diplomacy with Serbia, Russia, and the wider world. Franz Ferdinand was no democrat. He had no interest in parliamentarism or universal suffrage. But he saw the empire's crisis clearly and wanted to fix it from the top down. In a different time, with different support, he might have succeeded. His federal vision could have given the Slavs a voice. His military reforms might have staved off decline. His caution might have slowed the rush to war. But it was not to be. He had too few allies, too many enemies, and he would never get the chance to rule. Franz Ferdinand was many things: a cold aristocrat, a loyal husband, a religious traditionalist, a reluctant reformer. To some, he was the empire's last hope. To others, its last obstacle. His assassination in Sarajevo would not just remove a man, it would remove an idea, a path not taken. And in doing so, it would seal the fate of an empire. In our next episode, the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the shot that shook the world. This is Road to Destruction, the World Wars.